Hey everyone, welcome back to GameSpot's E3 stage. I'm Mike Mahardy. I'm here with Lucy James.
Hey.
And we are also here with Al from Creative Assembly.
Hello.
You've been showing off Total War, Three Kingdoms, a little more. I know there was the release trailer a few weeks ago at this point.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Reveal trailer, not release, sorry.
Yeah.
Not yet.
No, yeah. But yeah, so we're here at E3. We've got a playable battle, which is one of the siege battles from the game.
Yeah.
So we're really sort of talking about, you know, it's the first time we've shown it off at all, so we're really talking about what it's all about, how we're building the game, and what that period is all about as well, because it's totally fascinating, like as a historical period.
Yeah, it's a long-running franchise, to say the least. And we are going to jump right into a live demo briefly, or momentarily, but I do want to kind of, for people watching, get the elevator pitch from you. What is Total War, Three Kingdoms? How is it setting itself apart from
Cool, so it's the next big historical game, because of course we've done fantasy games with Warhammer recently, but it's the next great historical game in the Total War series, and it's set in ancient China, which is a period we haven't tackled before.
Yeah.
And it's, the beauty of it is it's not just a regular history game, because the obviously the kind of first, second, third century AD in China, fascinating period of kind of civil war and turmoil, lots of tyranny and revolutions, and finally unification as well. It's a fascinating period and totally perfect for a Total War game, but we're taking elements from the Romance of the Three Kingdoms, which was the kind of historical epic novel of the period, actually written in the 14th century by a Chinese writer. And it takes the kind of warlords and heroes and the governors and the big, you know, the kind of key characters of the period, and they are writ larger than life in the Romance. So we're taking a lot of a kind of inspiration from that.
Right.
And you know, the Romance of the Three Kingdoms, those stories are told and retold even today in movies, in comics, in cartoons. So it's kind of a fascinating period to deal with, because there's all these kind of interpretations of these huge characters who, you know, like warriors who slew 2,000 men in a single battle single-handedly, and you know, all the kind of crazy stuff that they got up to, and that's what we want to bring an element of that into the game.
Yeah. I keep coming across a story about someone got shot in the eye with an arrow, and then ate it.
Yeah, a guy called Zhao Dun, who. He was, so he was one of the great warlords. He was a general himself, and he was a cousin of Cao Cao, who was one of the great major leaders of the period. This kind of strategic masterminds, and he was an ally of his. And went into battle against the forces of Lu Bu, which we'll see in the demo today. Yeah. And Lu Bu, one of Lu Bu's archers, shot him in the eye with an arrow. So rather than falling dead, as you might expect if you were shot in the eye with an arrow, in fury, he pulls the arrow out and eats his own eyeball, and then proceeds to slay the general of the army who'd shot him in the eye. So, and then puts an eye patch on and carries on fighting.
As we all do in such situations.
Exactly. You do your best with a bad situation, don't you? So.
Well, I'm excited. We have a demo ready, a live demo. Let's jump into it.
Yeah.
You good? And we got someone from Creative Assembly back here as well, ready to play. So tell us what you're showing us here today.
So this is the Battle of CRP. This is the city of CRP here, and this is Cao Cao. Cao Cao is the guy I mentioned just now, this sort of great general. And he's here. This was the battle in history where Cao Cao finally defeated Lu Bu. And Lu Bu was this tremendous warrior. He was the most powerful warrior of the Three Kingdoms period. You know, slew, as I mentioned, thousands of men himself, and became rather notorious. He was very self-serving. He was he was totally unscrupulous. He kept like making alliances with warlords and then killing them, and then moving on and sealing alliances with other people. So, and by this point, by the Battle of ZRP, Lu Bu was pretty much you know, treated as a betrayer by absolutely everyone. Nobody trusted him. So this is the battle where Cao Cao, who's expanding his territory at this point, his territory brushes up against Lu Bu's stronghold city of ZRP, and he sees an opportunity to take Lu Bu down for good. So that's what this battle is all about. So what we're doing is showing off some of the kind of units, the kind of warrior types that we've got, you know, built around ancient China. And in short, we've got an entire army here performing a siege against this city. So it's quite a varied army. There's Cao Cao there, like sat in the field on his own. And one of the nice new features is if you check out the unit cards along the bottom, that's all the different units in the army led by the different generals.
Yeah.
And you know, in all our previous Total War games, armies were led by a single general.
Right.
But now, I mean, there's so many characters in this period, and we want to play to that. So we've built armies around the idea of retinues. So you can have multiple generals in an army, each of whom brings his own unique retinue of troops, and each of the generals has a different kind of character class, as it were. So so Yue Jin, the kind of central figure in the unit cards there, he's a guardian, which is a very tanky character. He's kind of a blockade runner. You can throw him into melee against hundreds of other regular units, and he'll just stand there and weather the storm, and he can, you know, lock stuff down on the battlefield for you. Whereas there's all these other different general types, such as strategists and vanguards and champions, and they all bring something different to the party, essentially, gameplay-wise. They have all their own sort of strengths and weaknesses, yeah. So flying over the city here, and you can see the detail we're building into this. You know, lots of research has gone on into the sort of buildings of the time. And that's Lu Bu himself. This is this mighty warrior of the Three Kingdoms period. This is the great betrayer. Sat atop, he's got this epic mount, basically. This horse is called Red Hair.
It's very good horse armor.
It's very good horse. It's the best horse armor, yeah. Flamboyant horse armor. Yeah, so with these characters and sort of minor generals, major generals, whoever they are, if you defeat in the campaign game, if you defeat them in battle, there's a chance you can loot their items off them and equip them onto your other generals. So, so Red Hair there, this particular mount, quite a prestigious creature. Everybody knew Red Hair as the fastest horse in the Three Kingdoms period, and so if we defeated Lu Bu, there's a chance we'd be able to loot Red Hair and then stick Cao Cao on him, and what an insult that would be to Lu Bu, right? So
what would happen if one of our generals got killed? Would we still have access to the units that he brings, or do they all kind of...
No, they go with him. They go with his army. Right. So the idea is when you lose one of your generals, his retinue will run. So yeah, I mean you have an overall commander for the army as well. So Cao Cao is this in this instance.
Okay.
So you'll see that he gets the big kind of aura around him, which is, you know, his kind of morale bonus and all the buffs that he brings as a particular character type.
So
but yeah, I was
I
going
was going to say it's a very tumultuous time, a lot of alliances, a lot of backstabbing.
Absolutely.
Surely that has to play in. What happens if our generals don't get on? What if they have conflicting ideologies? So
that's really kind of the heart of how Three Kingdoms is different from previous Total War games, because we're building the entire campaign game around these characters. They're the absolute cornerstone of the whole experience, and in a way we've never done before. We've added tremendous depth to characters in their personalities and their drives. They have a kind of satisfaction level with their place in the world. Right. They have a list of friends and a list of rivals. So as an example, you could have two characters in the same faction who deeply, deeply dislike each other, and one of them might dislike the other one so much that he actually leaves your faction and goes and signs up with one of your enemies and becomes a governor or a general for that guy.
Right.
So these guys have more agency of their own, right?
Yeah.
And also, while they'll, you know, as they kind of grow and gain experience and sort of level up throughout the course of a campaign, you'll discover more about their personalities. We have this kind of idea of predestination. So rather than simply being a kind of tool where you just put points into a certain skill tree, and then that character is very good at one thing, these guys, you'll learn about their personalities and their drives and their motivations and the kind of things they like as the more time you spend with them in the campaign game, basically.
Right.
So, and really the whole thing's built around this. There's a sort of core concept in Chinese culture called guanxi, which is it's a concept which embodies sort of interpersonal relationships and your place in the network, if you like.
Right.
And it has, you know, embodies concepts of kind of reciprocity and honourable conduct, and you know, and that's where this whole friendship and rivalry thing comes in. So you could have two characters who are incredibly good friends, and an example is you might have a governor and a general in an enemy faction who are tremendously good friends, but the governor doesn't particularly like his faction leader because he's very warlike, right? So his faction satisfaction level is dropping and dropping and dropping and dropping. And he might join your faction because you've spent the last 50 turns playing a very diplomatic game, for example, and not really conquering anyone, not really starting any wars or anything.
Yeah.
So he might come and join you, and because he's great friends with that particular general, that powerful general, the general might actually go, I'm going with my friend. And you might gain that extra general as well because of the power of that bond of friendship between those two characters. So it's looking for kind of ways to manipulate that. And looking for pitfalls, as you say. You know, if somebody really doesn't like you as a faction leader, then you have to find ways of raising their satisfaction levels, playing to the kind of their desires and their motivations, essentially.
So what was the motivation on Creative Assembly's part to really focus in on characters? I mean, there's always characters in Total War games, but it seems like that is a huge theme focus for this game.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely is. I mean, in more recent games for Warhammer, for example, we've had amazing characters on a plate because of the Warhammer lore and the Warhammer universe. But in terms of having sort of multiple interlinked relationships in the campaign game, that is the first time we've done that. And it feeds into battle as well. So if you've got two characters who are fierce friends, incredibly close, so they're almost like brothers, and they go into battle together, and one of them falls in battle, one of them dies in battle, the other one might go berserk.
Wow.
You lose control of him because all he'll want to do is charge screaming towards the enemy and take as many of them down as he can in a blaze of glory, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it plays into the battle side of the game as well. And I'm not sure if you've seen it so far, but occasionally characters you'll get little conversations that spark between characters in battle.
Oh wow.
So if you've got rivals, they'll sort of insult each other, or you'll get a bit of banter between friendly characters, a little insult between enemies. So
that's something really cool. It's like the feeling that you can build up those relationships and see them play out within the game, and it kind of gives you even more investment in what you're doing.
For sure, yeah, for sure. I mean, if you've spent 100, 200 turns, kind of with this character, maybe you've got one character who's a particular favorite for you in your faction, and you see him getting unhappy about something, you're going to do everything you can to kind of cater to him because you don't want him to defect.
No.
You don't want him to go elsewhere, and so it's keeping an eye on that stuff. And like you say, you just get a lot more investment in the characters in this way because they've got much more varied, much more colourful personalities than they've ever had before.
So one of the things, obviously you guys have just come off the back of Total War Warhammer 2. What's it like kind of returning back to a historical entry in the series?
It's been great, actually. And we've been working with a guy called Rafe de Crespigny, he's pretty much the foremost authority on the Three Kingdoms period, like historically. And diving back in and kind of tackling a new, well, for us, a new period that's been utterly fascinating. We've discovered loads. There's so much about the period that we had no idea about, and so it's a real journey of discovery to go back to historical games to this depth and this scale again. So yeah, it's been great.
I was going to say, because especially in the West, like we typically don't learn about Chinese history or Japanese history, and so
no, that's right.
A great jumping in point for people.
Absolutely, yeah. It's been a real education for us, and it's hard to understate the hard to overstate, sorry, the importance of the Romance of the Three Kingdoms in Chinese culture. Like I said, it's the subject of movies, it's the subject of comics and books and cartoons and all sorts of things. These tales have been told and retold since the 14th century.
Yeah.
And these characters have taken on a life of their own almost, these are the stories you read in a comic book when you're 3 years old,
Yeah.
So I hope we're doing them justice. I sincerely hope we're doing these guys justice, and that that we can bring them to life in an authentic way.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think Lubu's just been knocked off his horse.
Yeah, so we're at the final duel. This is Zhao Hudun. This is the guy with the eye patch and the eyeball shawarma.
Okay.
So what happens is when you can engage in duels, and this is the way we're supporting that whole kind of character concept as well. And once they're down on the ground, they engage. This is all wushu, motion captured wushu martial arts combat moves. So yeah, they really go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Zhao Hudun takes down Lu Bu here. But of course, so this is this is the point at which Cao Cao rides up, and there's a guy you'll notice to his right, and fans of Romance Three Kingdoms, the guy on the right will know is Liu Bei. He was a really key figure in the period, and he's actually the guy that stood behind Cao Cao, because Liu Bu, back in the day, Liu Bu sat there and went, "You don't want to execute me. I'm the most powerful warrior of the Three Kingdoms. I can work for you." And Cao Cao's going, Cao Cao's like a master strategist, so Cao Cao's going, actually, I could use you. And Liu Bei goes, kill him. Once a betrayer, always a betrayer. So that's where Liu Bu was finally slaughtered, basically. So
awesome. Well, Al, we were just showing the screen. When can people play this?
Sorry?
When can people expect to play this?
So spring next year. We haven't settled on an exact date yet. A little way to go yet. But yeah, we've got, obviously we've just shown a glimpse of it here with the battle. But really, we just wanted to show how evocative those environments are that we're building, and the depth of detail and character in the units and characters and things. But there's so much more to come with the campaign game. We've got tons of interesting new features like the character stuff. So yeah, we'll be rolling all that out over the next few months and showing off a lot more of the game.
Awesome. Elle, thanks so much for joining us on stage. I had a great time. And have a good rest of the show.
Yeah, you too.
If you're watching from home, do not go anywhere. We are about to talk about Hitman 2 with the people who made it. We'll see you then.